So that deployment all worked out and you can see it launched everything, but you'll still notice if we go back and try and run this, we're still having all sorts of problems here. And there's just a few more pieces that we've got to be able to add to our project. So the first one is we've got to find the proper name for our project, which is this, warm Everglades, right? So go ahead and just copy the full URL of this and then come into your settings.py, and here up in our allowed hosts, we have to say this is, a place that our website can be served from. So with this, you don't want to have the HTTPS or the slashes or anything like, and again, yours is probably not going to be called Warm Everglades, like it's going to be something else, but just do whatever the name is .herokuapp.com. You want to have that full thing listed inside of there. And if you're going to have a separate URL for your project, you're going to want to list that too. So in my case, I want to have hofvids.com. And I also want the www version of that, so I'm going to say www.hofvids.com. All right, so and again, this is a domain that I own, so you can't use this one, but if you got some special name for your project and you want to put that on a particular URL, go ahead and add those there so that they'll be able to be shown that way. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is we need to make a new file in the top level portion of our project. So the very top level, which right now is hofvids-project. So I'm going to right click here and say new file. The name that we're going to give to this is just capital proc file. So this is going to give some information about the project here. And so inside we're going to say release : and then space Python space manage .py, and we want migrate. So this is to say, okay, whenever we release something, we want to go do a migrate on our database. That's a good policy there. And the next thing is, this is where we want to specify that this is going to be a web thing. We're going to do web : unicorn, okay, space, and then we have to give the name of our project, which is hofvids. So hofvids.wsgi. Okay. Now, if there's any question about this, if you're saying, well, I'm not exactly sure about the name of this, you can actually dive into your project and you can see we've got hofvids.settings. So whatever that is before .settings, that's the name of your application. So make sure that you have that correct. But it does look like that we have everything here. So we've set that all up. We're going to save this file. Another file that we're going to create here, let's do a new file, this is called runtime.txt. So this is just saying which version of Python you'd like to use. So if you have a specific one you'd like to peg to, I'm going to say here Python 3.7.2. You can see it was already doing that for me. I assume it was probably just looking at the most current version. There might be something inside of like the pip file that was designating that. But anyways, you can get very specific there with your runtime if you'd like to do that. Okay, so with that in place, let's go ahead and save our settings. Let's go back to our terminal and do a get status. So we should see, okay, we've got some new things added here. So I'm going to do a get add -a, then get commit, and we'll call these just Heroku files. Okay, so we've committed that. And let's do our get push Heroku master. And again, I'll come back once this is all finished so you can see where things are at. Now I want you to notice something that we got here at the output at the end here. You can see our database migration actually happened. So you can see all this awesome info. And if you actually go back and check out what your web page looks like now at the following URL, this is kind of a cool little tip. You can do Heroku open, and that'll actually go to your browser and open up a new tab with your project there. And you can see, oh, we're now getting server 500. So this is a little bit different than before, but this 500 error, this is actually just that thing about the home page when you don't have, hall 1, 2, and 3 set up. So for instance, if you go to /admin, oh, check that out. Like this is functioning, this is working. Now we don't have a super user, right? And so if you wanted to start from scratch, you could go create a super user. Heroku has a really nifty thing here if you need to go enter in some custom code to say, hey, I want to go create a super user, or in our case, when we want to go see the database. And essentially what you can do is you can pass forward some sort of command to the Heroku server, and it's going to run it for you on its behalf. So simply, all we have to do is say Heroku run, and then just type your command that it is that you want to run. So in this case, we're going to do like a Python, if you wanted to, manage.py, and then like create super user. But we have our seed data, right? And so I'd rather do a load data, and on this do seed underscore data.json. So let's go ahead and hit enter on this. And you can see it's out there running this for us. Okay, we'll go ahead and give that a second. And look at that, installed 55 objects. It's so cool. It's just happening all on the server there. So now if we come back and just go to the home page of our project, well, look at that. We have everything showing up properly, right? Like, and if we wanted to, it's going to have our same users here. So if I log in with like Matt, for instance, okay, it's going to log in. I go to my dashboard here. Check this out. And you can see it's taking a little bit. It's not as snappy as being on our local machine, but look at that. This is all the starting data. Like this is where during that seed data lecture, you might have been like, well, this stuff was kind of cool. Maybe, I'm not really sure. Now it's like, oh, this is great, right? Because look how easy this was to get up and running. So we really are there. If you'd like to add, have your site be hosted on your custom URL rather than warm Everglades, right? Because it's a little bit weird to send this to your friend and be like, hey, go check out my website. It's warm-Everglades. Like, yeah, that gets a little bit weird. So if you'd like to do that, here's the following process for that. So you need to go over to your command line interface here, and you need to add something like this where you say Heroku and then domains, add, not what I just typed, and then give whatever URL it is that you're looking to add. So I'm just going to do like example.com, right? Because you're going to have your own custom URL. But you go ahead and you do this one, okay? And then to make sure that it's up and running, we're going to do a Heroku and then domains, wait. And then inside your quotes, that's where you're going to add like your example.com. Okay, and that's going to wait to make sure everything's up and running. And let's see, Heroku domains, wait. It must not have liked the example. I'm going to guess that they have example.com blocked because example.com is currently being used by another app. So you can't share URLs. That's what the problem here is. So that's why it's not working. But again, you should have your own custom URL and be able to get this to go through. So you would do this, and then eventually you would run a command where you would say Heroku domains, and that's going to list out all the different URLs that you should point to, like, oh, for your base URL, do this one. For your www one, like run this for not only your example.com, but also www.example.com. Then you need to take those URLs and go to your wherever your URL is hosted, right? Like that's going to be something like GoDaddy or Google Domains, and you're going to have to like go enter that in. So for me, I've already done this with a previous project. If you go to hofvids.com, you can see that we have this up and running. So, and something to note here is when you're going to, if you want to use the custom domain part of Heroku, you've got to enter in a credit card. I believe it won't charge you, but you at least have to verify yourself with a credit card. But on top of that, like the more and more you use Heroku, like right now we're on a free tier, and you saw how long it took to get to this page. Like if we go to like the dashboard now, like it won't take all that long, but Heroku actually kind of like puts your server to sleep until it gets a request, and then it keeps it alive, I think, for like 30 minutes or something, and then it'll put it back down to sleep. So anyways, if you don't like that, you can have your server running all the time, but that's something you have to pay for with Heroku and whatnot, and you'll have to go get there. So like I said, we're kind of getting out in the weeds here. If you'd like to have your domain hooked up like this, right, to kind of have this automatically rolling, go just Google Heroku DNS, and like they're going to show you for a bunch of different providers like GoDaddy and whatnot. Like this is how you connect. Like they'll even walk you through what I just did here about getting your domain connected and whatnot. So there you have it. Our project is up and running. Personally, it's pretty nifty, right? Like this didn't take all that much code to get up and running. And especially like if you've done this a couple of times, you're going to say, okay, I know I got to add these proc files. I know I've got to specify this special database extension thing here, but like the time it took to get this up and running is great. And the even better thing, in my opinion, is in your local project, you make some sort of change and you decide you want to throw that live. All you have to do is that git Heroku push. And then all of a sudden it's going to go live out to wherever your project is being hosted by them, right? Like it's so much simpler than, having to log into your Linux server and then you apply the new code. You have to reset Unicorn and whatnot. Like this just makes things that much simpler. So hope you enjoyed that. If you had any problems with getting your project deployed, let me know in the comments to the video. But other than that, let's go ahead and wrap up this entire course.